High up in the clear, blue noontime sky, the sun appears to be much the same day in, day out, year after year. But astronomers have long known that this is not true. The sun does change. Every 11 years or so, sunspots fade away, bringing a period of relative calm. This is called solar minimum, and it's a regular part of the sunspot cycle. The sun is heading towards solar minimum now. Sunspot counts were relatively high in 2014, and now they're sliding toward a low point expected in 2019 to 2020. During solar minimum, we can see the development of long-lived coronal holes. Coronal holes are vast regions in the sun's atmosphere where the sun's magnetic field opens up and allows streams of solar particles to escape the sun as the fast solar wind. Streams of solar wind flowing from coronal holes can cause space weather effects near Earth when they hit Earth's magnetic field. These effects can include temporary disturbances of the Earth's magnetosphere, called geomagnetic storms, auroras, and disruptions to communications and navigation systems. There are unique space weather effects that get stronger during solar minimum. For example, the number of galactic cosmic rays that reach Earth's upper atmosphere increases during solar minimum. Galactic cosmic rays are high-energy particles accelerated toward the solar system by distant supernova explosions and other violent events in the galaxy. During solar minimum, the sun's magnetic field weakens and provides less shielding from these cosmic rays.
There are radiations that are coming in now, energies, including gamma rays and including those energies that cause the sun to create greater levels of ultraviolet. All of these things are coming in around the sun now because what is happening is we're going into a solar minimum of some depth, and the sun in a solar minimum, it shrinks its corona. The thing we see as the light radiating out from the sun is generated by and includes a plasma field that captures all of these strange radiations from space that the sun is plowing through. And usually the sun eats it all up and we get very little of it. Cosmic rays used to be relatively infrequent and relatively rare in human experience compared to the way we are going through them now. So we humans are now getting bombarded by levels of energies that we are not normally used to incorporating in our being. And they are becoming incorporated in our being because we react to light, electromagnetic radiation of all kinds. All humans and a lot of animals are crazy now because of these extra radiations coming in. The irrationality of crowds, riots, attitudes, hateful words, all of these kinds of irritation responses that you see around you in society make sense if we're all being bombarded with energies that we're not prepared to deal with. And most of us, because we're unaware of this, we're not taking those energies into account, so we're not doing anything at all with our bodies to try and dissipate these energies. It's my thinking that we each as individuals, just in order to preserve our own sanity and our own ability to navigate through modern life without adding to the problems and keep yourself calm, you've got to do things to do that. You've got to ground yourself. You've got to understand you're dealing with extra levels of radiation. You've got to take on board minerals and vitamins that will aid your body in coping with this, because otherwise the prognosis is not good. Not only do we have the people with 5G increasing the electromagnetic smog around us, and it's actually not smog, we're in a tsunami of this stuff, constantly being inundated by this. Well, getting back to the idea of the solar changes, this is not the first time that we've had that happen to the planet. So it's a very interesting age to be in that's going to last for some period of time. It's going to be absolutely chaotic, though, okay? Because we're basically living through the destruction of many old systems in order that new systems might be birthed. It'll be absolutely fantastic with technology that'll be coming on out, but it's going to be horrific with social changes and the impact of these social changes as many people fail to adapt to what's going on. But, you know, it's one of these kind of things where if you enhance your calm and take care of yourself, and these sorts of things, you can navigate. And if you're far looking, one can affect great change even as an individual.
I really do think that this is one of the greatest events in human history unfolding in front of us right now. It occurs on a regular 400-year cyclical pattern. It's turned to the grand solar minimum, where the solar activity goes into an extremely low state. It affects global crop production, and then the knock-on effects from that, if we can't grow enough food to meet the demand of 8 billion people, something is going to have to shift in the economy, the population. They're getting us to prepare for the wrong outcome on purpose, because you have to think about the end goal of this is to depopulate part of our planet. Next best step, use a natural cycle, blame it on nature, nobody's culpable, and then run geoengineering on top of it to, reduce some of the crops along the way. This is where the electric universe ties into everything. Now you think about our sun, it's 1.2 million times larger than the Earth. So electrically and magnetically, the way that thing is affecting our Earth, we're coupled with it. When you look at the magnetic field lines coming off the sun, they actually connect to and intertwine with our Earth. So when the sun steps down its intensity, Electromagnetically, the charge, literally the electrical charge, our Earth is directly affected and it needs to step down too. And we're heading into a really amplified, heavily electrified, plasma-dense region of space with debris. Vibrationally speaking, everything's rising up, if you will. These electromagnetic changes in the sun, everybody on the planet's feeling that something is not right now, or something is changing, but they just can't put their finger on it. That's the electromagnetic frequency from our sun changing. Now, us being receivers of that, we should be able to work and amplify these energies ourselves. And you've seen through history countless times of civilizations just completely disappearing, leaving almost no trace except the buildings. Now, again, are these uplifts and these vibrational shifts that we're about to experience again? Now, for us as a human, perhaps we shift into a different dimensional realm, but the Earth itself still retains some of the damage on, this cosmic bombardment. And Douglas Vogt's done an amazing amount of work on this. And he calls it like a mini micronova from the sun that sends out a shower of not only debris, but energy. It's almost the entire surface of the sun, and everything of the plasma from the sun releases in one gigantic puff. And it hits our Earth, and that is the catalyst. And you'll find a lot of things disappear at that time. There's sudden, genetic shifts at this time that come in, where they find new species that suddenly evolve literally overnight. So there has to be some kind of massive electrical spiritual connection that comes in that allows dimensional shift during this time. All these things are talked about in the ancient cycles of time. We're just repeating a cycle, it seems, and it comes back. It's always the same things. But look how our societies have been set up since the 1600s. It's only about the hard stuff around you. They've dissuaded us from looking at anything spiritual, vibrationally wise. They don't even want you to look at Tesla technology. Everything that is on the vibrational and frequency realm is totally been erased from memory. And if you even talk about it, you're laughed at. Like they put us in a box from kindergarten. What about free power? Why can't we use frequency vibration for free power? Healing our diseases, we can't do that. We can't even talk about it without being, demonetized, websites taken down because we want to talk about frequency healing. And it all comes back to that same thing, vibration and frequency. But anyway, these great changes are here and they've been forecast. So when we look at it, we do have the choice to live at it in fear or look at it as the greatest change, that we have opportunities to vibrationally shift into other realms, if you will, that are outside the chaos realm. And if you have the mindset to help, there's going to be enormous amount of opportunities out there. Perhaps this is the switch point where we come off the centralized control into individualized or more sovereign aspects of our living and being. And that's the next step of what, as the shift occurs, the next step is going to be back to the sovereign nature of ourselves and our communities. We could have the best world that we've always envisioned of this enlightened age. And here we are right now. It's a great time to be alive.
This is remarkably similar to what we saw in Serbia, the ex-Yugoslavia, what we saw in Ukraine in 2014, and now we're seeing it in Bolivia. This is this color revolution playbook. You have these fake NGOs, fake social groups that are supported by foreign money, training, and of course we have the military that all of Latin America's military is trained in the United States. So there's so many different avenues to go after a government.
Definitely, this is the result of a so-called color revolution or a revolution for democracy that turned into a coup d'etat. There's no question about that. And of course, the media is not covering it correctly. The problem is that when the United States recognizes a government that was not elected and does not recognize a coup d'etat, it justifies this takeover of government. So definitely here, there are players that are, very well recognized that are supporting the elites of a country that has over 40% of the total reserves of lithium and important natural resources that we need to take into account.
Any government that tries to reassert a degree of sovereignty over its economic policy, over its political decision-making, that tries to incorporate previously marginalized sectors into the political process will come up against the US government's interests and its local allies. This has happened, remember, Chile, the birthplace of neoliberal capitalism. We talk about fascism, the Pinochet dictatorship, the degree to which they enforce fascistic policies, torture, gross human rights violations. This is the model which is hegemonic. It's what people in Chile today are trying to change, and there's a mass uprising which is being brutally repressed. Of course, the OAS and the US government don't have any qualms with going along with the right-wing Piñera government. They will come up with all manner of excuses to justify the military coup that's taken place.
Basically, what the USA is doing in order to recover the hegemony and primacy in the region is to apply and to use fascist forces in the region. In Brazil, they are doing that. Inside Brazil, it's a very racist society, and Bolsonaro is an example of that. And in Bolivia, it's the same thing. Racism is present and fascism is present in this coup against Morales. The American foreign policy is a colonial policy towards this region, towards South America. And they feel that they have to take care of the Southern Hemisphere. This is a standard policy in American foreign policy to control, and now they lost that control.
Evo Morales entstammt politisch gesehen der Gewerkschaftsbewegung und er war der Gewerkschaftsführer der Kokerbauern. Die Verfassung hat festgesetzt, dass ein Präsident einmal oder zweimal wiedergewählt werden kann. Er hat es allerdings ein drittes Mal versucht. Das ist ihm schlecht bekommen. Man weiß, dass dieser Fall ja schon seit längerer Zeit vorbereitet war und eine Meute von rechtsradikalen Banden auf die Leute losgegangen sind, die Amtsträger gewesen sind.
Geht es beim Machtwechsel in Bolivien vor allem um die Umsetzung des Trump-Wahlspruchs America First, was auch bedeutet, es ausländischen Autoherstellern vor den Toren der USA nicht zu erlauben, günstig an Lithium zu kommen?
Es ist schon ein klassischer Fall in der Hinsicht. Es geht da handfest um die Bodenschätze, um vor allem das Erdgas und das Lithium.
Glauben Sie, dass Bolivien vor einem Bürgerkrieg steht?
Die Gefahr ist sehr imminent, gerade weil dieses rassistische Element da, also Indios abschießen sozusagen, das sind ja ganz atavistische Reaktionen. Natürlich auf der anderen Seite auch der revolutionäre Impetus der Bevölkerung, die sich jetzt um ihren zu Recht oder zu Unrecht Liebling Evo Morales jetzt große Sorgen macht. Das sind zwei Parteien, die aufeinander losgehen, und wenn sie das wirklich mit Waffen tun würden, dann haben wir einen richtigen Dauerkonflikt, so wie in Syrien oder sonst wo.
Back in 2001, there was a policy known as Plan Colombia that was drafted by the U.S. and Colombia. What this did is it designed to end drug trafficking and out of that country, but 19 years later and billions of dollars later, many see this as a big failure.
The plan failed because the plan is a lie. The entire drug war is a lie, not just in Colombia. I have seen coca fields, miles and miles and acres of coca fields, and right there in the midst of the coca fields are heavy concentrations of the Colombian military, which is funded and advised by the U.S. military. And what we're seeing is, in spite of this heavy presence of military, the coca growing and processing and trafficking goes on unabated. So I think that the real purpose of the drug war has to do with dispossessing people of land, is to send in heavily armed contingents to make sure that that land is open for private development by mining companies, oil extraction, big agriculture. Look at who gets arrested. Look at who they go after. They go after peasant growers who have no way of getting crops to market. But you rarely see the real drug traffickers, the real narco traffickers winding up in prison. It's just a big lie.
Y ver hoy las manifestaciones que se están produciendo en Colombia, te das cuenta que es un detonante, que es un gobierno que no gobierna. Y definitivamente, con todos esos atisbos de Duque, hay también un discurso demagógico alineado un tanto con el uribismo, que definitivamente el pueblo colombiano está manifestando en las calles que no quiere más ese gobierno, es lo que está pasando. Hoy el gobierno de Duque de Colombia está en el caos, realmente. Hay que ver los rostros, las caras, la presencia de esos jóvenes ahí, que están interpretando los sentimientos también de mucha gente que no pudo tal vez llegar al lugar de las manifestaciones, pero que sienten lo más hondo que es vital, ya urge un cambio en Colombia. En un país que está además echándole las culpas a otro. Y la raíz del problema es de muchos años también de limitación y de subdesarrollo. El neoliberalismo, que ya no es tan neo, es una vieja receta que ha estado destruyendo a los gobiernos y sobre todo a los pueblos, que son en definitiva los más afectados. Así que Colombia hoy está justamente viviendo una etapa, una historia como consecuencia de años de sufrimiento y también de discriminación.
in Chile is deadly. It's owned by the business interests, particularly television stations. One thing you hear from protesters and fighters and revolutionaries, and totally different thing is what you see later on your television screen when it's being all analyzed. Because television is doing tremendously destructive work. And we saw it in Venezuela in the past. We saw it in so many other countries. They are indirectly smearing the revolutionary forces. It was absolute shock for the people to see military on the streets, especially for older people, because for them, the military on the streets symbolized the coup, 1973, or horrible repressions under General Pinochet, and something so shocking that they thought that it can never return to their country. So many people believe actually that the constitution has to be created by the people, for the people, not by the political parties that already betrayed, that governed Chile after Pinochet stepped down and did very little actually to bring the power back to the Chilean citizens, or to return Chile where it was before the natural process was interrupted in 1973 by the United States and the treasonous Chilean military and the elites.
sei quem vocês são canalhas, patifes. Esse é o jornalismo que vocês fazem, jornalismo podre, um jornalismo podre da TV Globo, podre, canalha. Vocês não prestam. Essa patifaria por parte de vocês, essa coisa que não dá para definir. O tempo todo infernizo a minha vida, porra! Essa patifaria 24 horas por dia contra a minha pessoa é uma canalice que vocês fazem. Uma canalice, TV Globo. Uma canalice.
Llegando a este momento de este video documental de noticias, que esperamos que sea de gran utilidad, sobre la realidad que vivimos a nivel sociológico y humano, Quisiéramos felicitar a todos los que nos acompañan con gran interés en nuestras publicaciones, por un nuevo aniversario de los videodocumentales de Alcyon Pléyades. Y así celebramos que se cumplen 7 años del inicio de este proyecto, que de forma desinteresada, como un bien social que con gran esfuerzo y dedicación, seriedad, profundidad en los temas tratados, rigor informativo y transparencia, se llevan preparando y difundiendo periódicamente. Y esto se ha llevado a cabo con un total de 2.750 vídeos publicados en 227 países, tanto de Alcyon Pléyades como de noticias, traducidos a 13 idiomas, como son, inglés, alemán, francés, español, portugués, italiano, japonés, ruso, griego, húngaro, chino, hebreo, y holandés. Hecho con el único objetivo de llegar a la mayor cantidad de personas en todo el mundo. Los cuales son realizados para transmitir un conocimiento, muchas veces velado o escondido, haciendo que salga a la luz de la verdad, y de esta forma poder ayudar a todas las personas de noble y puro corazón, que anhelan el despertar a una realidad que muchas veces nos han ocultado, y que esperamos sea de gran utilidad y ayuda para todos. Por todo ello agradecemos profundamente, en este feliz 7º aniversario, a aquellos que dirigen y trazan las líneas maestras de estos profundos e interesantes documentales, por su entrega y esfuerzo día a día. También agradecemos a nuestros fieles seguidores y suscriptores, que esperan anhelantes cada nueva publicación, buscando comprender y aplicar el conocimiento recibido. Y asimismo dar las gracias a todos aquellos que de alguna manera o de otra, han colaborado a lo largo de estos 7 años, para que este proyecto en bien de la humanidad, salga adelante.
Es heißt, Geld regiert die Welt. Keiner hat mehr davon als der Finanzinvestor BlackRock. Über 6 Billionen Dollar stehen dem Konzern zur Verfügung. Wer so viel Geld bewegt, hat Einfluss auf Firmen, Politiker und ganze Länder.
BlackRock arbeitet mit dem, was die Wall Street OPM nennt. Other People's Money. Das ist das Geld anderer Leute. Das ist das Geld, was die Wall Street am allerliebsten verwendet. Und bei BlackRock ist das natürlich auch System.
Der Kopf des Unternehmens ist Lawrence D. Fink, genannt Larry. Er ist der mächtigste Vermögensverwalter der Welt. In den 10 Jahren seit der Finanzkrise 2009 stieg BlackRock zum größten Investor der Welt auf. BlackRock hat zu viel Geld, BlackRock beherrscht die Kapitalmärkte und falls mal etwas schief geht, dann könnte das die ganze Finanzwelt bedrohen.
Ich glaube, BlackRock ist eine extrem gefährliche Firma. Da ist dieser Partybus. Und jeder auf der Party, jeder im Bus will feiern und was trinken. Also trinken sie und haben Spaß. Und wer schiebt das Ding? Es sind Larry Fink und Janet Yellen. Die machen Party und Janet Yellen will die Bremse ziehen. Doch Larry sagt, nein, lass laufen. Und das Partyvolk, nein, nicht bremsen. Das macht so einen Spaß. Und dann ist da diese Klippe. Und der Partybus stürzt die Klippe runter. Und was zerstört ihn? Sie knallen auf einen schwarzen Stein. Einen BlackRock.
Ein führender Experte brandmarkt BlackRock als Gefahr für die Finanzwelt. Der Angriff markiert einen Wendepunkt in der öffentlichen Wahrnehmung des Finanzinvestors. Als globaler Vermögensverwalter hat der Konzern zwar inzwischen viel mehr Geld im Umlauf als die meisten Banken, wird aber deutlich weniger kontrolliert. Denn BlackRock ist keine Bank, vergibt keine Kredite und gilt deshalb als nicht systemrelevant. Hinter Fassaden, die aussehen wie Warenlager eines Versandhändlers, stehen Rechner des größten Finanzinvestors der Welt. Tag für Tag durchsuchen Geräte wie diese die digitale Welt nach allem, was wichtig sein könnte für die Finanzindustrie. Jede kleinste Marktbewegung, jede noch so nebensächliche Äußerung eines Ministers registrieren die Rechner von BlackRock. Das alles passiert nicht von Menschenhand. BlackRock hat dafür sein Analyseprogramm Aladdin entwickelt. Künstliche Intelligenz, die viele Entscheidungen ganz alleine trifft. Doch Aladdin bringt BlackRock in anderen Bereichen noch viel mehr Geld ein. Welche Firmen sind Geheimtipps? Welche überbewertet? Welche bergen Risiken? Was planen Politiker? Wo kommen Krisen auf? Aladdin weiß mehr als jeder andere. Wer dafür zahlt, darf Aladdins Zauberkräfte nutzen. Rings um die Wall Street herrscht kein Zweifel daran, dass BlackRock die Finanzmärkte maßgeblich beeinflusst. Die Frage ist, wie konnte das Unternehmen in so kurzer Zeit so mächtig werden?
Der Konzern berät auch Regierungen und Notenbanken. Viele fürchten, dass BlackRock dadurch unerlaubte und exklusive Einblicke in das Finanzsystem erhält, die man zum eigenen Vorteil nutzen könnte. Doch selbst wenn BlackRock aus dem Insiderwissen keinen Vorteil zieht, stellt sich die Frage, wie eng sind die Verflechtungen von BlackRock mit der Politik? Keine andere Firma verwaltet so viel Geld wie BlackRock. Ihr Arm reicht weit in die Politik und beeinflusst ganze Regierungen. Doch darüber redet man nicht. Je größer die Macht des Investors wird, desto mehr drängt sich die Frage auf, müssen wir Angst haben vor BlackRock? Könnte die Größe des Konzerns unter Umständen eine weltweite Finanzkrise begünstigen? Und ist BlackRock überhaupt noch aufzuhalten?
Lawrence Fink. Er ist der 4-Billionen-Dollar-Mann. Ein Schattenmann, der die Welt regiert. Der König der Wall Street. Er hat Verbindungen zu allen wichtigen Finanz- und Staatschefs der Welt. Und mit seinem Unternehmen ist er an fast jedem Großkonzern beteiligt. Vermögensverwalter wie diese gibt es sehr viele. Aber keiner ist so groß oder mächtig wie Lawrence Finks BlackRock. BlackRock hat so gut wie überall seine Finger im Spiel und hat sich bei fast jedem großen Unternehmen eingekauft. Zum Beispiel bei den wichtigsten Banken der Welt, aber auch bei Ölgiganten wie ExxonMobil, Rüstungsunternehmen Apple oder McDonald's. Erst die globale Finanz- und Wirtschaftskrise 2008 macht das Unternehmen zum Giganten. Das weltweite Finanzsystem bricht zusammen. Die gesamte Wall Street versinkt im Chaos. Nicht aber Lawrence Fink. Für ihn schlägt jetzt seine große Stunde. In der Krise sind Finks Kunden die Mächtigen der Finanzszene. Vom Chef der Europäischen Zentralbank bis hin zum US-Finanzminister. Selbst die US-Notenbank bitten ihn um Hilfe. Er soll das Desaster wieder aufräumen. An fast allen Rettungsaktionen von Banken oder Versicherungen ist Fink beteiligt. Am Ende der Finanzkrise ist Lawrence Fink die ungeschlagene Nummer 1 in Sachen Vermögensverwaltung. Und mit Hilfe des Supercomputers Aladdin vertrauen die Reichen und Mächtigen weiterhin vor allem Lawrence Fink. Durch die Anteile an den vielen Firmen weltweit kann er enormen Einfluss ausüben. Darauf, wie ein Unternehmen geführt wird und somit nicht zuletzt auf uns und unsere Arbeitsplätze. Er gilt zu Recht als eine der einflussreichsten Personen der Welt.
Von diesen 500 aktiennotierten größten Unternehmen, von diesen 500 ist BlackRock, Vanguard und State Street der Hauptaktionär in 450. Nehmen wir die 300 größten westlichen Kapitalgesellschaften, davon ist BlackRock in 282 der Hauptaktionär. Es sind über 17.300 Unternehmen weltweit, wo BlackRock halt drin sitzt. Gleichzeitig hat BlackRock Anteile an Vanguard und State Street an BlackRock und Fidelity an Vanguard und so weiter und so weiter. Also die gehören sich auch alle gegenseitig. Und da sehen Sie sozusagen, was das für ein unglaubliches Machtkartell ist.
These giant transnational investment companies, the ones who represent 36 million millionaires, 2,000 to 3,000 billionaires, manage their money for them and invest it in places where they want to get a return. That's one of the problems with capital and capitalism, is that it needs to continue to grow. So the problem with this kind of capital concentration is they run out of places to invest it with good returns. So part of the neoliberal economic policies is to buy up the world, literally privatize the world, so that highways are bought up, water resources, universities, cities, I mean everything, it becomes privatized. BlackRock is the largest transnational investment company in the world. They have $50 billion in Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman each. A lot of military companies are involved. All the CO2 producing companies are involved. It's just a massive concentration of wealth. So they're doing huge amounts of investment and benefiting from war. All these big investment companies are invested in war. I mean, they make money from it. So we've reached a level now of permanent war. These companies are totally in charge of the world.
You've stayed at his home in Palm Beach,
Yes.
but you were staying at the house of
Yes.
a convicted sex offender.
It was a convenient place to stay.
Witnesses say they saw many young girls coming and going.
I never saw them. What they were doing and why they were there, I had nothing to do with.
One of Epstein's accusers, Virginia Roberts,
Yeah.
has made allegations against you. She provided a photo of the
Yes.
two of you together.
Yes.
Your arm was around her waist.
I have absolutely no memory of that photograph ever being taken.
Do you recognise yourself in the photo?
Yeah, it's pretty difficult not to recognise yourself. But we can't be certain as to whether or not that's my hand on her, whatever it is, left side.
I wonder if you have any sense now of guilt, regret or shame.
Do I regret the fact that he has quite obviously conducted himself in a manner unbecoming? Yes.
Unbecoming. He was a sex offender.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm being polite, in the sense that he was a sex offender. The problem was the fact that once he had been convicted, I stayed with him. And that's the bit that as it were, I kick myself for on a daily basis, because it was not something that was becoming of a member of the royal family. And we try and uphold the highest standards and practices, and I let the side down.
Within 9 months of meeting Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, Virginia was being flown halfway around the world to have sex with Epstein's wealthy associates. A little girl amongst a sea of men.
I was trafficked to other billionaires. I was trafficked to politicians, professors, even royalty. It was the elite of the world. It was the people who run the world. It was the most powerful people in the world.
Why do you think Epstein did that to you?
He used me as a form of blackmail, so, these people would owe him favors.
The name that has caused the greatest splash is Prince Andrew. The pair captured in this now infamous photograph taken in 2001.
So as you know, Prince Andrew denies the allegations against him, and he says that this photo is a fake, that he was never there, and that he's not his arm, and they're not his fingers.
Those are his fingers. That is Andrew. This photo has been verified as an original, and it's been since given to the FBI, and they've never contested that it's a fake. And I know it's real. And he needs to stop with all of these lame excuses. We're sick of hearing it. This is a real photo.
And that was the first time you met him?
And that's the very first time I met him. And that's right before I was abused by him.
Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell took the 17-year-old Virginia to London to party with Prince Andrew.
Then we went to Club Tramp, and he danced with me, and he sweats a lot, and he smells funny. And then we get in the car, and Ghislaine tells me in the car that I have to do what I do for Jeffrey for Prince Andrew. And that's when I learned what was going to happen.
How many times were you trafficked to him?
3 times.
Epstein's wealth was so vast, the fact that he had this fleet of planes. We've heard a lot about the Lolita Express. What happened on the Lolita Express?
Everything that happened on the Lolita Express and his other planes was the same thing that happened in his bedrooms and the massage rooms, on the beach, wherever we were. The abuse did not stop because we're in the air. 95% of the time, there was always sex involved. Like, that's how sick this man was.
Prince Andrew later said he stayed at Epstein's homes several times, and flight records show the prince travelled on Epstein's private plane in 1999. A Washington Post examination of flight logs revealed Bill Clinton took 27 flights on Epstein's private plane.
This is a blackmail operation, and Prince Andrew got caught in it. So the Queen has acted because she's trying to stop the dominoes falling, which this situation has enormous potential to do. That will lead to the real background and the real nature of the British royal family that is hidden from the public, so that the royal family can survive in power. This is the same royal family and Queen acting in regard to Prince Andrew, who were described by a news program presenter in America on ABC in a tape that was leaked. And in that tape, she says that she had the whole deal on Jeffrey Epstein, Clinton, Prince Andrew, all of it, 3 years ago. And ABC would not let that be aired. And one of the reasons, she said, for that was threats from the British royal family. That's how much the bloody Queen cares about abused children. It just keeps coming to the surface as a result of things like the Epstein scandal and the Savile scandal. Jimmy Savile was a disc jockey or entertainer with the BBC, and when he died in 2011, what came out in the wake of that was that Savile was a historic level paedophile. What didn't come out is that he was a procurer of children for the rich and famous. And Savile was also, for decades, an inner circle member of the British royal family and a close friend to his death of Prince Charles. Are we really being asked to believe that royal family connections to Epstein and to Savile, who were both doing the same thing on different sides of the Atlantic, is just a coincidence? I'll give you another coincidence by Jimmy Savile's own words. He was introduced to the inner sanctum of the royal family in the 1960s by a very influential member of that family called Lord Mountbatten. Lord Mountbatten was the mentor of Prince Charles, to an extent also of Prince Philip, it would seem. Why would Lord Mountbatten introduce a paedophile and procurer of children to the British royal family? Well, here's another coincidence. Lord Mountbatten was a paedophile. And what we're seeing now is a desperate attempt at damage limitation so that this horrific family and institution can survive.
Prince Andrew quit public life and his royal duties for the foreseeable future. This is a direct response to the mounting evidence and actions that could take down the royal family. There's a lot of things to consider here with this latest statement by Prince Andrew, which again is correlated with secret legal documents that are supposed to be unsealed by a decision from a US judge by the end of this year. Documents that allegedly have explosive new allegations that most likely implicate also Prince Andrew, that many witnesses now correlate him with. And because of that, and because of the mounting evidence and the witnesses and this potential document drop, there is a lot of pressure on the royal family, especially with all the pedophiles that they are connected with that surprisingly face an extreme lack of consequences for whenever they get caught in their scandals.
Un objeto volador no identificado luminoso que se encontraba a una baja altitud. Se puede observar que emite un rayo de luz. Parece estar dirigiéndose hacia el frente y hacia abajo. En un punto de la toma desaparece y en segundos reaparece.
such a huge secret is coming to the surface. People are telling their true stories about how they were abducted. A whistleblower called Terry Lovelace was abducted as a member of the Air Force. And on the ship, he was not only seeing grays and so on, but he was also dealing with people in the Air Force. So the Air Force is fully involved in some of the abductions, and in some cases even orchestrating the situation behind the scenes. But this genetically re-engineering the human genome is one of the names of the game out there. Their overall plan is to create what is in essence a humanity 3.0, because their ultimate goal is to go out to the stars and basically travel space, which they are already doing. And this is getting, going to go into the whole AI thing, what we call transhumanism, and being able to survive through anything, whether it's an onslaught of radiation in any environment. We're putting the picture together. Humanity is starting to understand the story, the big story.
Human beings, for 10,000 plus years, have taken animals in the wild and bred them. And so now, can we be bred into something different? And the answer is absolutely, of course we can. We're doing it to ourselves now, but a real question to ask is, has someone else come, taken us, and added a different mixture? Some people have been taken, men and women have been taken, and some of them have been used for purposes of reproduction, and it appears hybridization. There are a lot of women who will remember the embryo or fetus being taken out of them. Some of these people have also had clear memories of abductions by non-human beings. Medical doctors, medical science would say you had a miscarriage and your body absorbed that child, that being. There have been a number of cases of women claiming to remember being taken aboard a craft and being presented with an infant that they were told was theirs. We have got to remember that we're dealing with probably the most significant event that human beings could ever imagine. The arrival of others who are so far advanced, and they're here and they're dealing with us and they've got their own agenda.
I have 24 hybrid children, and it's a lengthy process. Okay, the whole process of insemination, of having the children, and many other implants that happened in between in order to facilitate the program. When I was abducted in 2013, I didn't want to tell anyone about that. The entire operation, I guess it was a harvesting and hybridization ship particular to this process. Further in the ship, you go to the other side, and that's where they extract the babies as well from the women. Somehow, they do something to induce the labor. It's premature labor because they always want the children in fetuses. The next room, I'm seeing the tall grays with the petri dish doing the DNA alterations, injecting the fetuses.
In the hybridization program, the woman will incubate that child within the body. But my own personal experience is 3 months. That was the longest I've ever gestated a fetus in my body. But when they removed it from the body, they take it and they put it into incubation tanks to continue the gestation process. This is also where they genetically modify the fetus. So the hybrid children that they take, of course, they gestate them for the remainder of the process, and they are raised up until a certain age. You know, I would be very upset and worried and concerned, and I would go to the doctor and I would say, you know what happened? I wasn't with anyone. How can I become pregnant? The doctor would say, oh, you're probably stressed out and you probably want a family so much that, your hormones are acting up and responding to that. And they would tell me things like that. The thing that makes these experiences unique is that you get marks on your body. You're having these vivid dreams of being abducted. You're having the dreams of being in front of extraterrestrials or other beings that are taking something from you or working on you. That is not a normal dream. The hybridization program is not just utilizing the genetic material and, hybridizing children in the womb. This also is a replication program, a cloning program that can be done with any part of your genetic material. Since the beginning of time, since Mesopotamia, we have been genetically modified. Okay, our race, the human race, does not come from apes. Understand that in our reality, how is this happening and no one is talking about it? How can it be that I experience having miscarriages and the physical results of these experiences, this extraterrestrial contact, and yet I can't talk to other people and express what's occurring to me? I mean, when that happened to me, I didn't know who to turn to, who to talk to. It's incredibly isolating. And everything that is managing the structure of our reality is somehow being shifted and changed and inverted to make it really difficult to talk about this.
What I'm doing fundamentally is challenging the materialist model of reality which science is based on, has been for more than 100 years, which is the doctrine that all matter is unconscious. The whole universe is made of unconscious matter, which then leaves the problem of how come we're conscious. Most scientists assume that consciousness exists only in human brains and possibly in animal brains too. And the rest of the universe is unconscious, purposeless, going nowhere. Evolution is just a matter of blind chance. There's no God out there, there's no spirit out there, there's no creativity out there, it's just chance. And that because they believe our minds are nothing but our brains, then anything that suggests the mind extends further than the brain must be pseudoscientific. But the materialists wanted to believe that because they wanted a universe that's just matter, because such a universe would have no God in it. In the 19th century, within biology, a lot of people were vitalists. They thought there was a life force or some life principle. It wasn't just matter, organisms weren't just machines. An idea that came up in the 1920s in developmental biology was the idea of morphogenetic fields, fields that shape form. I got interested in this, but then I realized these fields have to be inherited somehow. They can't be inherited through genes, which only code for proteins. They had to be inherited by some kind of direct link. And then I realized if there was a kind of memory across time, a great deal of biology would make sense. Not just biology, but a lot of nature. That idea already existed in the psychologist Jung, with his idea of the collective unconscious. Had the idea that we all tap into a kind of collective memory. But he was thinking just in terms of human psychology, and I'm saying that's the way that all nature works, it's not just us. Now, you're studying Eastern philosophy, and in Eastern philosophy, the idea of a memory in nature is completely standard. Well, it's basically part of the philosophy of karma, which in its limited form is about reincarnation, carrying over memories from one life to another. And in some forms of Buddhist and Hindu philosophy, they have this idea of a cosmic memory. The Theosophists took this up with their idea of the Akashic records, which is a kind of cosmic memory bank. The metaphysical belief system that nature is totally mechanical, that it's all unconscious, that the laws are fixed, because they're materialists, everything must be matter, so all our memories must be inside our head. And therefore, when you die and your brain decays, all your memories are wiped out. So every religion that believes in reincarnation or an afterlife or purgatory, any form of transmigration, anything like that, must be rubbish, because memories in the brain is impossible for any aspect of them to survive. What it leaves, the materialist worldview from which God's been removed, leaves people alone, isolated in the privacy of their skulls, and is a world that's meaningless and depressing, and that's why depression is the endemic disease of modern societies. People think of science as against spirituality, but if you actually use science correctly and you look in an open-minded way, you study spiritual practices scientifically, like meditation, for example, then it turns out the evidence is overwhelming. Well, people who do it are happier, healthier, live longer, lowering stress levels, sleep better. If we escape from this dogmatic prison that it's in at the moment, it could become much more positive and life-affirming. And I think that if we switch from a view of nature as being dead, inanimate and mechanical, to a view of nature as a living cosmos that's evolving, and everything in nature as being alive, the Earth, the Sun, the solar system, the galaxy, plants and animals, we'd feel much more connected if we feel ourselves part of a living world. And then the kind of spiritual principles that give rise to that world, or the creative forces that underlie it, we'd feel they were more relevant and closer to us, and we'd see God in nature and God in us. And I think then when that happens, our lives become much more connected, much more meaningful, and much happier too.